One morning the world woke up, and there was no news. No gun was shelling the great eardrum of the air. No Christian flesh spurted beneath the subtle screws. No moaning came from the many agony-faced Jews. Only the trees in a gauze of wind trembled and were fair.
No trucks climbed into the groove of an endless road. No tanks were swaying, drunken with death at the hilltop. No bombs were planting their bushes of mud and blood. And the aimless tides of unfortunates no longer flowed. A break in the action at last. All had come to a stop.
Those trees danced in their delicate selves half-furled, and a new time on the glittering atmosphere was seen. The lightning shuttering on the closed eyelids of the world was gone, and an age of horizons had dawned, soft, pearled. The world woke up to a scene like spring's first green.
Birds chirped in waterfalls of little sounds for hours. Rainbows in miniature nuggets were stored in the dews. The sky was one vast moonstone of the tenderest blues, and the meadows lay carpeted in 3 heights of flowers. One morning the world woke up, and there was no news.
For the last 4 editions of Camera 3, we have been examining the threat and the challenge of the atomic age in which we live. We listen to the voice of science, to the voice of reason, to the voice of common sense. In the course of one of these programs, Gerald Sykes, author of The Hidden Remnant, suggested that there are other voices which may in the end carry the day, the voices of non-reason. Certainly in the affairs of men, there is more than one level of reality, as poets and dramatists have been telling us for centuries. It is our good fortune to welcome Miss Agnes Moorehead to Camera 3 today. With her are Michael Tolan and Tim O'Connor in a program of dramatic and poetic material we're calling Other Voices. The first is that of Herman Melville, who in Moby Dick found an image in the weaving of a mat which helps to clarify the tangled forces which shape our destiny.
It was a cloudy, sultry afternoon. The seamen were lazily lounging about the decks or vacantly gazing over into the lead-colored waters. Queequeg and I were mildly employed weaving what is called a sword mat for an additional lashing to our boat. So still and subdued, and yet somehow preluding was all the scene, and such an incantation of revelry lurked in the air that each silent sailor seemed resolved into his own invisible self. I was the attendant or page of Queequeg while busy at the mat. As I kept passing and repassing the filling or woof or marlin between the long yarns of the warp, using my own hand for the shuttle, and as Queequeg, standing sideways, ever and anon slit his heavy oaken sword between the threads, and idly looking off upon the water, carelessly and unthinkingly drove home every yarn. I say, so strange a dreaminess did there then reign all over the ship and all over the sea, only broken by the intermitting dull sound of the sword, that it seemed as if this were the loom of time, and I myself were a shuttle, mechanically weaving and weaving away at the fates. There lay the fixed threads of the warp, subject to but one single, ever-returning, unchanging vibration, and that vibration merely enough to admit of the crosswise interblending of other threads with its own. This warp seemed necessity, and here, thought I, with my own hand, I ply my own shuttle and weave my own destiny into these unalterable threads. Meantime, Queequeg's impulsive, indifferent sword, sometimes hitting the woof slantingly or crookedly or strongly or weakly, as the case might be, and by this difference in the concluding blow, producing a corresponding contrast in the final aspect of the completed fabric. This savage's sword, thought I, which thus finally shapes and fashions both warp and woof, this easy, indifferent sword must be chance. Aye, chance, free will, and necessity, nowise incompatible, all interweavingly working together. The straight warp of necessity, not to be swerved from its ultimate course, its every alternating vibration, indeed, only tending to that. Free will, still free to ply her shuttle between given threads, and chance, though restrained in its play within the right lines of necessity, and sideways in its motions directed by free will, though thus prescribed to by both, chance by turns rules either, and has the last featuring blow at events. Thus, we were weaving and weaving away.
Centuries ago, the Greek comic dramatist Aristophanes used a similar image of thread to express a woman's cry against the waste of war as a means to settle complicated arguments. The woman, Lysistrata, in argument with a magistrate.
You, I presume, could adroitly and gingerly settle this intricate, tangled concern. You, in a trice, could relieve our perplexities.
Certainly.
How? Permit me to learn.
Just as a woman with nimble dexterity, thus with her hands, disentangles a skein, hither and thither her spindles unravel it, drawing it out, and pulling it plain, so would this weary Hellenic entanglement soon be resolved by our womanly care. So would our embassies neatly unravel it, drawing it here and pulling it there.
Wonderful, marvelous feats, not a doubt of it. You with your skeins and your spindles can show. Fools. Do you really expect to unravel a terrible war with a bundle of tow?
Ah, if you only could manage your politics just in the way that we deal with the fleets.
Well, tell us the recipe.
First, in the washing tub, plunge it and scour it and cleanse it from grease, purging away all the filth and the nastiness. Then on the table, expand it and lay, beating out all that is worthless and mischievous, picking the burrs and the thistles away. Next, for the clubs, the cabals, and the coteries banding unrighteously office to win, treat them as clots in the wool, and dissever them, lopping the heads that are forming therein. Then you should card it, and comb it, and mingle it all in one basket of love and of unity. Citizens, visitors, strangers, and sojourners, all the entire undivided community. Know you a fellow in debt to the treasury? Mingle him merrily in with the rest. Also remember the cities, our colonies, outlying states in the east and the west, scattered about to a distance surrounding us. These are our shreds and our fragments of wool. These to one mighty political aggregate tenderly, carefully gather and pull, twining them all in one thread of good fellowship. Thence a magnificent bobbin to spin, weaving a garment of comfort and dignity, worthily wrapping the people therein.
Heard any ever the like of their impudence? Those who have nothing to do with the war, preaching of bobbins and beatings and washing tubs.
Nothing to do with it, wretch that you are. We are the people who feel it the keenliest. Doubly on us the affliction is cast. Where are the